So colleagues, it gives me great pleasure to really bring someone who really bring all this together in terms of how does all that we've had today, how do we take all that and make sure we continue, this industry continues, we develop leaders of the future, we impart knowledge to the youth and the graduates within Africa, and we give Africa the opportunity to also develop at the pace at which the rest of the world is at. So to take us through that session, I would like to invite Mr. Vincent Joyner. He says it differently in French. So when he says it differently, don't be very surprised. He will tell you a little bit more about himself, and then, of course, the panel that he's going to invite. Vincent?
Good afternoon. It's 4:30 on a Sunday afternoon. The most magnificent weather is outside, and you're in here. So you're part of either one of two groups. Either you're passionate about leadership, or you've got a very sad life. I hope it's the former, and if it is the former, I think you'll have a nice hour ahead of you. And we'll be talking about leadership in the hospitality industry in Africa. So to start off with, if we just, or perhaps, yes, if we get the panelists up, please. Alan, Diane, Darlene, Stuart. So first up is Stuart Smith. Stuart Smith is from America, a Cornell University graduate, 15 years as a GM, and the last several years has been a consultant in various different things in the hospitality industry, but the core focus is on hospitality, human resource related issues. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dr. Diane Abrams from University of Johannesburg, director of the, I was about to say the hotel school, it's not the hotel school, it's the School of Tourism and Hospitality. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Darlene Oosthuizen, master's student and part-time lecturer at University of Johannesburg, who did her BTech as well at UJ. So the voice of the future. And then not quite the voice of the future, Alan Romberg. He's done so many fantastic things, founded Relay Hotels, managed it for 20 years. That was folded into Tourvest AHA Hotels. Last few years at Cape Peninsula University, the director of the hotel school there, and now chair of the advisory board at the private hotel school in Stellenbosch. Thank you for being here. So this afternoon, we'll be talking about leadership in the hospitality industry in Africa. And I think sometimes it's quite obvious, but let's just state the obvious. There's tremendous growth in Africa, on the continent, around about 6% depending on the country, sometimes it's 12% per annum. There's strong growth in the hospitality industry and the number of hotels being built. We saw that today, about 150 hotels in project stage. I'm dealing just with a few different investment groups. One is being formed. They're going to put $500 million into hotels in Africa over the next few years. And so the growth is going to be massive. And their big concern is who is going to staff that? What are the different skills we need, from the basic how to cook some food up to revenue management, sales, marketing, branding. The industry is getting more and more complex, more and more specialities, competing with different brands from around the world. And it's truly a global industry today. So City Lodge is competing with the Marriotts, and everyone's competing with everybody. So it's more complex. We'll be discussing the needs of the industry. And this week, a bit of last week, I contacted some of the CEOs in the industry locally, and just to see what their view of leadership development was, and I'll share that with you just now. So it's very much a qualitative viewpoint. We'll be talking about the educational programs and the evolution of those programs, and we've got some members here from that background. The developmental challenges, especially in South Africa, but throughout the continent. Voice of the future leaders, so we've got Darlene here as well. We've got two other students just at the back there. And then we'll talk briefly about the HICA Hotel School Challenge 2015. And we'd like to get your input on that one as well, what that should look like. So if we start off with the qualitative feedback, so I'd like to thank the different people who participated in that, from City Lodge, Tourvest, Marriott, Hospitality Property Fund, Extrabold, Hilton, for giving the time over just to discuss these issues. Okay, the critical remarks, and these are just simple ones. Obviously, there's a lot of context behind them. The general comments from industry was that the hospitality programs are too expensive for a lot of the school leavers. More people might want to get in, but they can't. The criteria for access to the government-run hospitality programs is based on points from your matric, and unfortunately don't vet the students through questions and interviews. The curricula and the educators are not up to date with where the industry is today. There's no cutting-edge courses available for industry from the different universities or the different institutions. The entrance low level of literacy and cognitive thinking is a problem. The programs are very operationally based, not necessarily management and leadership based, and that the industry requires hoteliers, but also business managers to blend both. If we look elsewhere around the world, what are they doing, what can we learn from them? And one of the big things that came out is better vocational guidance for the school leavers. A lot of people that go into hotel school are not necessarily future hoteliers, and they don't particularly want it. So they don't have the work experience in hotels, even summer vacation type of stuff, to know what the hotel industry is about. Leadership development overseas, especially in the States and some European countries, it's much more strategic, and the industry is considered a strategic industry. A lot of the global hotel groups have their own programs in-house. The foreign graduates understand the world of work better. The self-starters don't need to be spoon-fed. Now, obviously, these are very glib kind of answers out there, but it just shows what some of the leaders in the industry are thinking, how they experience things. We need more practical work experience integrated into the programs, and the programs typically are too generic and not specific enough. Where do the industry get their leaders from today? Mostly they talk about getting people in-house and bringing them up through the ranks. But that doesn't mean they always have the right critical thinking, problem-solving abilities. Some companies in South Africa go overseas, especially to Europe and America, looking for graduate hotel schools. And then other ones go around the world looking for African people who are studying in different countries or working in different companies and trying to bring them back to Africa. Developmental process, how do the different hotel companies do things? Well, there's every kind of thing you can imagine. Every type of course, different levels, different ways of doing it. Everyone does something different. Where do the industry, the operational industry, and the institutions miss each other? Miscommunication, misunderstand, what the case may be. And the biggest one coming out there is that the curriculum designers and lecturers are not up to date. And that, I think, was the number one complaint, is the people in the institutions don't really know what's happening in the field. But likewise, the industry said, we don't fully understand what they're doing, or what they should be doing, or what their constraints are, around accreditation, around the type of people they have to deal with. I don't know if you know about, of people who start primary school in South Africa, only about 5.5% will get maths at matric level at 40% or higher. So numeracy is a major issue in South Africa. Functional literacy is also an issue to be taken into account. I think this is the second last slide. The challenges faced by the educational institutions. Obviously, this is the view from industry, how they think the problems they have in the educational institutions. And it's poor career counseling in high school. So unfortunately, the universities get the wrong people in. The students have problems in accessing finance. The hospitality industry is not viewed as a career choice. It's not like the one I want to do, it's plan B. If I don't get what I really want, maybe I'll do hotel management. And then dealing with the Generation Y or the millenniums, there are a different type of people, a different generation, and so those are some of the challenges that the hotel schools will have to deal with. And how can we rectify some of this possible partnerships? Well, maybe some of the industry experts can lecture, guest lecture, provide real-life case studies to the students, provide subject matter experts from industry to the universities so they can actually learn as well. Lecturers can work or should be working in the industry from time to time, keeping themselves up to date. One idea was that the industry as a whole organized one particular day in the year where all the hotels would be open for an open day, so that young students, young people can go into the hotels and find out more about hotels. And that could be an industry-wide initiative. One very surprising thing is only one respondent mentioned the CETA. And if you think about it, the CETA should be a big part in developing skills in the hospitality industry. And there was only one comment, and it was quite critical, to say the least, and just said that they're not effective and they're not transparent. And so that's perhaps, if there's anybody from the CETA here, we need to talk, I think, because there's a lot of room for progress there. And how do we broaden the career options for people entering into the hospitality industry? Well, better career counseling, identify different career paths, and there's many today, improve the image of the industry. And in South Africa, as I said before, many school leavers think the hospitality industry is not really what you want to do. You be a waiter if you have to, but it's not really what you want. And we need to showcase more role models of people who've been successful in the hospitality industry, and organize access to the industry for non-hotel management students doing BCom, BEd, and that type of thing. Okay, so what we're talking about in terms of leadership in the hospitality industry and hospitality programs, we often use different words and maybe mean the same thing, or perhaps we mean different things. From travel and tourism to hotel administration, hotel management, hotel leadership. And the question is, are we really talking about different things in terms of competency development, in terms of content, or is really terminology a bit of marketing spiel? And so, I don't know if you can see this from where you are. This is Dana Testone from the States, who just kind of, in a very simple table, showed what happens in the United States over the last 100 years. So in 1922, Cornell founded the School of Hotel Administration. And basically what they did is they took the diploma type of thing from Europe, which was quite technical and supervisory in its approach, and added in accounting and technology and legal and marketing and human resources to it to create hotel administration. And that lasted till about the 70s, and then the hotel schools started talking about hotel management. And they introduced things like strategic planning, problem solving, decision making, systems and structures, productivity. And what we've noticed, that lasted for about 30 years, and now we're noticing in the States a big drive towards leadership, hospitality leadership. And the question is that real, or is that just, rebranding? But it seems to be some realness in it, and it's around leadership, obviously, governance, creativity, innovation, conceptualization, transformation, development. And so I think we will start with that and just kind of ask the question to our panels, where are we situated today in South Africa or in Africa in terms of that type of a table? Are we in the hotel administration, hotel management programs, or hotel leadership? Diane, perhaps I can start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent. I think in South Africa it's still very much an operational focus with management. Recently, leadership and entrepreneurship has become important. But I think we're still leaning on the same kind of academics that have taught the vocational administration, so you need a new kind of thinking. And perhaps a more multidisciplinary approach, leaning on other fields that could influence ours. We heard of psychology this morning. How do we build that into our syllabus, into our curriculum? Transport and logistics, having students that understand local economies, the socio-political environment that they're going to find themselves in, and our transformation, diversity management. We heard some of that earlier this morning as well. And we're not quite there yet. So part of what institutions are now doing, like ours, is revising their program offerings, because it is more global, it is more competitive. So yeah, we're not quite there yet, but also for a country like ours and a continent like ours, the operators are still very important. So not a total move away from the operations and the management. That's still very important. And I think one of the comments that was raised by the CEOs is not enough practical. And that too is something that we've started addressing more as well on the vocational side. How more practical can it be?
Perhaps you can just give us a brief glimpse into what programs you actually have at UJ regarding hospitality. And you're saying they're evolving, they're kind of changing. In what way are you changing, updating those curricula?
Okay. We offer certificates, diplomas, and degrees, okay, and also postgraduate studies. I mean, Lillian hence one of the products there. But we don't have a degree in hospitality management. We have a diploma at the moment. Not saying that the one's better, but it's for different. They have different foci. So the certificates for those that are in industry come back and get the theoretical value add. We offer that. So those are short learning programs. You get diplomas, the more vocational stream, and the degree is then this more sort of systems thinking. What we're trying to develop there. So we offer that. That's what we offer at the moment. So we're not quite the Cornells, and I think someone asked me that before, is because we went and we benchmarked when we looked at the kind of offerings that we would like to have as UJ, and it's something that's more of a hybrid, I think. Research is important to influence what it is we teach. We need to have lots more Pan-African thinking in our curriculum. Our students do not know enough about what's happening on the continent, and that comes from the schooling as well. And how do we infuse that? And that aligns very much with what UJ is doing in terms of, we're the only university on the African, and we probably will be the only African university in University 21, a network of top universities. We're in the top 4% of international universities. For a young university, 10 years old, it's very good. And we're trying to, the innovation and the creativity, our programs need to reflect that. So, a bit of a push from the one side, and also industry saying, give us, better graduates, better employable graduates, better rounded.
Thanks, Dan. Alan, you've got a long history in the operational side of business, of the hospitality business, and then you went to the Cape Hotel School. You spent a few years there as director, and now you're more involved in the private hotel school in Stellenbosch. How do you see things?
Well, I agree with Diane, with Dr. Diane, that we find ourselves in a position where we're neither fish nor fowl. We've come a long way, and yet we haven't made enough progress. We have the makings of very solid and wholesome opportunity to move forward and to develop something unique to ourselves and unique to our needs here on the continent. However, she spoke about the push, but I think it's also industry that needs to have the pull. And if industry will become more involved, and you can see from the comments that they've made to you, we're not meeting their expectations. We're not fully meeting their needs. Try as we may to go ahead to do that, we are also restricted, and I say restricted in a very guarded way, because we're governed by the education department, and therefore we have to follow certain rules and regulations, certain procedures, certain operational methodologies. My experience at the Cape Town Hotel School, for example, was that the emphasis, we were placing too much emphasis on the practical. Because we had the restaurant there, which was a highly successful operation, plus they were doing the work integrated learning for 2 periods of 6 months in industry. When they did the review of the curriculum, they found that this now was too much, as opposed to industry, who's telling us we should be doing more and more practical. And the kids coming out of the Cape Town Hotel School at that time were seen as being work ready. They would go in and would be, particularly in the food and beverage departments, would be able to perform successfully and integrate very quickly into an operation. From a private point of view, the education department still will tell us exactly how and which way we should go. Perhaps the only difference is that we can either speed it up or slow it down according to who our students are. And in many cases, the students coming into the institutions are not quite ready for the level of education that is being delivered at those institutions. And we're having to find ways of bridging that